The growing expansiveness of the Call of Duty Zombies mode over the course of 12 separate games has prompted many features to be upgraded over the years to fit newer playstyles for the increasing size and complexity of the contemporary zombies experiences. Past the introduction of new perks, wonder weapons, or even increased square footage to maps lies the commonly unappreciated vehicles. Vehicles in Call of Duty Zombies have recently become seemingly a point of interest in the newer titles, but for those who have consistently played the older games, this was not the beginning. So with the release of numerous new marketing pieces for the upcoming Black Ops 7 Zombies mode, which I have been growing incrementally slightly more hype for, I wanted to cover the concept of vehicles in Call of Duty Zombies to explore how they have evolved over time to eventually reach this thing we see in the incredible artwork here. As I made this video, I had actually found that the concept of vehicles in COD Zombies changed drastically over the years, and whether it was because of a new engine or potentially because of new zombies mechanics as a whole, it was clear that the evolution was pretty significant. But really quick, let me define the concept of a vehicle before anyone attacks me in the comments for missing out on something. In the context of this video, a vehicle is defined as anything that A, can propel the player to a different position than where they were in a machine or animal of some kind, B, is airborne, or C, is some form of watercraft. So with that out of the way, by now you are probably thinking of the more iconic vehicles in zombies, such as, but despite the fact we will get there eventually, there were actually many more before that. The first of which I was not expecting, as usually when I make these videos I find myself starting in World at War, but this video is different as I am instead starting with the first DLC of Black Ops 1, Ascension. Ascension was the first ever map in Zombies history to bring us a lot of what we now know as common features, including but not limited to the introduction of Stamina and PhD Flopper, and arguably the first ever real Easter egg in the mode's history, but hidden in the shadows was another key feature that it introduced. That's right, Ascension was the first map to introduce the concept of vehicles with its iconic lunar landers. These landers, although uncontrollable by the players unfortunately, were highly significant in not only simple transportation, but the unlocking of the Pack-a-Punch and the completion of the aforementioned Easter egg quest as well. It honestly kind of surprises me how nobody mentions that this was the introduction of vehicles to the Zombies mode. I presume it is most likely because of the fact that this feature was introduced right alongside arguably more important features, but I still think it deserves its recognition it truly deserves for establishing a vehicle to the game. One could technically argue that the zipline introduced in Shinonuma was the first vehicle in Zombies history, and while I can see that point, I just cannot in good conscience consider a literal zipline as a vehicle, so I think Ascension takes the first prize here. It would actually not take long for the concept of vehicles to be brought back for the mode, and in fact, a vehicle would be seen 2 maps later with Shangri-La. DLC 3 of Black Ops 1, Shangri-La did not necessarily introduce a whole lot to the game that the other maps in the game did. Sure, it had unique features such as the 3179 JGB 215 or even the undisclosed spike mowers, but compared to its predecessors, it sort of faltered in new features. However, there would be another vehicle to the map with the seemingly forgotten minecart. The minecart admittedly did not necessarily have any real significant use. It really was just a device used to transport you to the underground section of the map, which could have been done by the water jet right next to it, but whatever. All in all, I really do like the minecart as a vehicle in the game. I just wish it ultimately got more importance than being restricted to a simple mine ride. Now, this is probably what you clicked on the video to see, and you can already tell what it is. It is the transit bus. The transit bus was the first vehicle in Call of Duty Zombies that actually was rideable but could be disengaged at any time, whilst also running on its own schedule. This feature was both a blessing and a curse. On one side, it is very nice to be able to hop on and off at your leisure. It can be used to get points, buy perks, or do whatever you do on transit. However, on the other side of the coin, this automated schedule that is followed could lead to you being forgotten, with the bus driving away, effectively leaving you in the dust to deal with the fog and denizens yourself. For an inexperienced transit player such as myself, this is devastating and is honestly one of the most unfortunate parts of transit, but one of its most redeemable qualities is its driver. The driver of this pretty horrific bus is Ted, which is a name that I believe was actually given to him by the community, much like Leroy from Buried to a certain extent, and is known for his attitude that he's got on him, but his honestly pretty hilarious quotes as well.
Keep fucking with me. See if I don't crash this bus and kill you all.
He seems to lighten that mood just that tiny bit when playing the honestly really dull transit, and I'm not sure how much significance he's going to have in Ashes of the Dam, which is the launch map for Black Ops 7, but I am looking forward to it either way. This is also the first vehicle in Zombies to have upgradable features, with an attachment that could be put up front, a ladder on the side that would allow you to get to the roof from the outside of the bus, as well as an attachable hatch that would allow you to also get to the roof, but this time from the inside. These upgrades, while minor, served as a good sign for the vehicles to come, and honestly sometimes the minor changes you make to the bus can become a game changer for surviving into the higher rounds. While all these upgrades and new additions are cool, it does make sense that it is all here because of the fact that the map is quite literally designed around it, and ultimately it would have been nice to see more quality of life features for the bus, but at the end of the day I still love it. Alright, so Die Rise would be a little boring and would skip out on vehicles, I guess, unless you count the elevators, but Mob of the Dead humbly did not. In fact, Mob of the Dead would be the first map in Zombies history to introduce a vehicle that can be used in the air with its makeshift airplane. This airplane is iconic for its name, Icarus, and is an airplane built out of practically whatever the mobsters could find on the map, which ended up being rope, some laundry, some gas, a gauge, and an AC unit, which honestly is a little debatable as to if this would work in real life, but whatever. Icarus originally was going to be used by the mobsters in the timeline prior to Alcatraz being flooded with the zombie horde to escape the island, and for a split second after building and beginning the takeoff sequence, the players almost immediately think that the plane will escape, but that is not quite the case. Instead, the plane miraculously gets struck by lightning seemingly and begins to alter its course directly into the Golden Gate Bridge, where surprisingly the Pack-a-Punch machine lies. Now, in my opinion, this is easily one of the best ways the developers have incorporated a vehicle into the mode. It gave the players a false sense of hope seeing the island being left behind in the air, only for it to be struck by some unfortunate lightning, leading to the ultimate trapping within the cycle we see in Mob of the Dead. Plus, Icarus is just such a cool concept, and it is even cooler when you learn that the concept of the plane being built out of makeshift parts was inspired by a real-life Alcatraz escape that used makeshift items such as raincoats to make a raft. Icarus has not limited itself to Mob of the Dead either. It can actually be spotted in multiple locations across the Call of Duty Zombies mode, including Zetsubo no Shima and Shadows of Evil, which just increases its iconicism. Overall, Icarus was such a fun addition to the mode, and for it being the only actual piece of aviation we see in the traditional Zombies mode, it did its job perfectly besides, you know, crashing and whatnot. Anyways, Buried unfortunately skipped out on a perfect opportunity to have yet another minecart vehicle on the map, but Origins certainly made up for it. To match the absolute epicness of Origins, it was only fitting that we would see the introduction of a tank to Origins that could be used to traverse sections of the map. This thing is an absolute beast. It does not necessarily move at insane speeds by any means, but it will easily shred any zombies in front of it while also transporting you safely to a different location without having to worry about getting stuck in the mud. It is a very good vehicle, especially for Origins, and it even has some importance to the overall map with its necessity to complete the construction of the lightning staff, which is both pivotal to the Wonder Weapon quest and the Easter egg as well. Such a cool vehicle to be seen in the game, and I honestly would say this vehicle has fit the hardcore and epic style of zombies the most in the entire history of the mode. Now, Exo Zombies of all modes surprisingly had a vehicle in one of its maps, but it probably is not what you're thinking of. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the lawnmower trap, which I wouldn't really call a lawnmower in any other situation, but yet here we are. Essentially, this is a vehicle of pure destruction that drives around the cargo area of the map carrier, and it works mainly to distract the zombies, as when activated, all the zombies chase this thing like IShowSpeed is driving it or something. It really is a unique trap, but the only reason I'm considering it here in this video is because you as the player can actually sit on top of it while it is going, which can give you a much needed break from some of the things that Exo Zombies, especially Carrier, can throw at you. Wait, actually, now that I think about it, Carrier itself is a vehicle, so this is actually the first ever Zombies map that is set on a vehicle that is moving. Alright, after that intermission with Exo Zombies, we return to Treyarch Zombies with Black Ops 3 and the launch map Shadows of Evil. As many of you know, there is a gondola that can be used within Shadows of Evil that can take you to one of the 3 districts present within the map, acting as a fast travel of sorts. However, this thing actually bears striking resemblance to that of the tank we saw in the last Treyarch Zombies map, Origins, as this thing is additionally used to obtain a wonder weapon of sorts. The Keeper Sword, at least its intended path, is meant to be obtained through the use of the gondola and looking into windows as you pass by to see symbols, which then would be used to unlock an area below the map to get the sword. Of course, speedrunners have broken this map pretty significantly nowadays, so so it's not really needed anymore, but the intent was there, and the gondola is so similar to the Origins tank that I'm surprised nobody has talked about this before. Black Ops 3 did have one more vehicle though, and that was a pretty significant upgrade with the Dragon on Gorod Krovi. This thing acted again very similarly to a Black Ops 2 map to take you to the Pack-a-Punch, but not after this sick animation where you see your characters flying through the war-torn Stalingrad, which is just such a neat thing to see. It really did not provide necessarily anything else to the map. Its use was diminished after the discovery of the Dragon Wings upgrade that would render his ride useless, but overall he still is a fantastic way to traverse the map, and it's a much better alternative than a simple teleporter. Now this is where things get fun, because we are stepping into the amusement park of Zombies in Spaceland to see the super unique vehicles that are featured here that are seen nowhere else. The roller coaster at Polar Peak easily is one of the most exciting and coolest vehicles we have ever seen in Zombies history. At first when I played this map, I immediately thought that there was no way they would allow the player to ride any of the rides, but alas, when I loaded it up, I was humbly surprised. It would be one thing if it was a simple roller coaster ride, however the developers went the extra mile to ensure this thing was as interesting as possible by giving you a reskinned M1 that could be used to shoot targets during your journey throughout the coaster. It is admittedly a small addition to the overall grand scale of Zombies in Spaceland, but the time that developers took to make this just shows how much care they put into the map, and going through it is not just for the fun of it. You get loads of tickets upon exit, which is a side currency exclusive to Zombies in Spaceland. There are of course other vehicles in Zombies in Spaceland, such as the bumper cars over here, but I decided not to include them because you can't ride them unfortunately, but I guess they get a mention here. Now for some odd reason, Raven the Redwoods looked at the fun in Zombies in Spaceland and completely did a 180 with its vehicle, as its signature boat on the map was anything but fun. This thing, after you took the time to find all the parts scattered throughout the map, is a slow, very boring boat ride to the island that has the Pack-a-Punch and Kevin Smith. And I mean, like, who on the development team thought this was a good idea? Like, Gorod Krovi worked because it had such a dope cutscene with a whole dragon, but this is literally just a slow boat ride that honestly takes one of the longest paths it could have possibly taken. Like, why? But hey, maybe some people enjoy the piece, so I can't really judge it too much. Now guys, I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't really know if there's a definitive vehicle in World War II Zombies. As far as I know, there is none that the players can actually interact with on any of the maps. I mean, there is the Zeppelin on the Final Reich that is there, but you can't really go inside it or anything. So if I'm missing one, kindly put it in the comments below, because I am not the guy to ask your World War II Zombies questions to. Now, funnily enough, Black Ops 4 would reintroduce a map being on a vehicle after Carrier, and that would be seen with Voyage of Despair. Obviously, the vehicle itself is the Titanic. I know, shocker, right? But there really is not too much to be said outside of the map, to be honest. I mean, as a result of this being based off of the actual Titanic, it led to the map being much more tight and compact compared to others, so it did kind of suck in that regard, but otherwise it's pretty standard. But there was actually another vehicle on this map that some people don't know about. If you complete this very obscure side Easter egg that was discovered, I think about a year or so ago, then you will be able to ride in this coach with this skeleton guy. It is pretty cool, and honestly there's not a whole lot to it, but I find the Easter egg to be one of a kind, and it's the first time a carriage has been seen in Zombies, I guess. Black Ops 4 would have one more vehicle, however, and it would be one of the coolest we have ever seen, Pegasus. As seen in Ancient Evil, Pegasus is a character that acts very similarly to the dragons on Gorod Krovi in that they take us to the Pack-a-Punch area of the map. But Pegasus does much more than the dragon ever did. I honestly don't really even like referring to this character as a vehicle, because Pegasus has additional features like the appearance when you construct the Pegasus Strike, a unique tactical that allows Pegasus to rain down lightning from above and is one of the most powerful in Zombies history. Pegasus is honestly just a nice homie to be added to the squad, and it's sad because he ends up dying in the end of the map. Sorry for those who haven't seen it yet. Alright, so this is where it gets to be boring for a little bit, so just bear with me here. Cold War Zombies would not see a vehicle until the controversial Outbreak mode dropped with its massive maps. As a result of these massive maps, vehicles of course were put in for the players to have access to, and I will spare you the boredom, they really are just basic dirt bikes, cars, boats, etc. I really wish they did a zombie spin on it, but to be honest, they are nice to have on the map, so I can't complain too too much. Mauer der Toten did technically have a vehicle with its train system, however, I didn't really want to include it because the player cannot actually ride it, but I mean, who would? This thing is going like 100 miles an hour. However, we would see one of, if not the coolest vehicle we have ever seen in Zombies history and Modern Warfare Zombies of all modes, with the Blood Burner. The Blood Burner is this motorcycle vehicle that was introduced in this mode that is a glowing purple and has a unique voice that echoes whilst using it that is reminiscent of characters like Ted. It is such a cool bike. It leaves behind a purple trail and actually runs off of zombie kills, and I just love everything about it in the mode. In all honesty, unfortunately, it really would only work to its fullest potential in Modern Warfare Zombies or an open world map, but I do really like this and I would not be mad if it returned in Ashes of the Damned. Black Ops 6 would launch with Terminus, and prior to the release of the map, we were told this was the biggest round-based zombies map ever, so vehicles were bound to be present. And since there were islands around the main prison area of the map, it was no surprise that boats were littered everywhere on this map for the player to have access to, and honestly, they really do not have any real significance outside of that. They really are just plain boats, but I do like how it is needed for the traversal of the map unless you really want to get eaten alive by this thing. But that brings us to the present day with the super exciting wonder vehicle for Black Ops 7 Zombies launch map, Ashes of the Damned. Now, we do not have a whole lot of information, but I will list what we do sort of know so far. We know that the vehicle itself will have upgrades to it that will allow you to attach a Wonderwaff mount or something onto it, as well as 3 abomination heads that will stick to the front of the vehicle that will supposedly shoot out electricity. Additionally, as pointed out by a lot of creators, it looks like the Pack-a-Punch machine is actually on the back of the car, which means that you will need to find the car to access Pack-a-Punch, which I guess is a cool feature, but outside of that, we really don't know a whole lot. After the release of the key art of Black Ops 7, we see that it is probably named Old Jesse, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what this vehicle can do for the game, and honestly, after seeing some of this stuff for Black Ops 7, I am getting a little bit more hype for the mode. That is going to be it with the video though. Let me know in the comments what your favorite vehicle is in Zombies history, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. But with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.